Roll call.
Senate corporations, attendance, Senate Boner.
Aye.
Senator, Senator Case,
Present.
Senator Nethercott,
Excused.
Senator Scott, and Chairman Driscoll.
Here. Welcome Senate corporations. Today, we're going to be taking up House Bill 76 and gross single office real estate brokers. And I'm actually going to move up House Bill 55 liquor license airport exemption because the sponsors got to go to another meeting. Go to House Bill 62 insurance amendments. Then if we got time, we'll go to House Bill 15 political subdivisions, on to 60 fiscal training, and 56 examination of books of certain districts and entities. Do we have anybody here to present on 76? I don't see any sponsors. Come on up if you said it was easy, so. All right. Welcome.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lori Erbkite with the Wyoming Realtors. I'm sure Representative Duncan is scurrying her way this direction as we speak, but maybe I can be done before she gets here. In 2017, we changed the real estate statutes to allow for a single broker to operate more than one brick and mortar office. We always intended that each of those offices would have to have a separate license. We did not intend that if you had a single office as a sole proprietorship, that you would have to have a separate license as well. That only required one license previously. But we have a new executive director with the Real Estate Commission. And when they read the statute, having not been involved in the original legislation, they clearly saw that we had erred in the way we had written the language in 2017. So basically, we are just trying to correct that. Well, there she is. The language that was amended in the House on the Committee of the Whole made it even simpler. It is really just that one sentence: a resident responsible broker operating as a sole proprietorship shall not be required to acquire an additional company license. We worked very closely with the commission to make certain that that was the language that worked for them, that those definitions were already included. And that, Mr. Chairman, is the bill. We do ask for effective immediate date, because they're kind of holding off on enforcing it. Some people have already paid the additional $300. I personally have not yet. We just as soon not have to. So we are asking for an effective immediate date.
Thank you. Question, Ms. Erbkite. Hey, comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Rebecca Zish. I'm the Executive Director of the Wyoming Real Estate Commission. And I just wanted to give you some quick numbers so you knew how many this affected. There were 6 sole proprietorships that were licensed in 2021, 27 that have been licensed this year in 2022. We have about 24 in the hopper that sent us their applications, but once we became aware of this bill, as Ms. Erbkite stated, we no longer process those. We wanted to wait and see what the pleasure of the legislature was as far as setting the policy within the statute. So there are 101 that are left to license. So that's a total of 134 licenses affected, which if you're looking at the business side, there are a total of 750 companies. So it would be 17% of companies we regulate affected. And if you're looking at the individual license level, there are 715. So that would be 19% of our licensees affected.
Any questions, committee? Senator Case.
Yes, Madam Director, if this bill goes through, would you be willing to refund to those people that used to cash their checks?
So we aren't able to refund them because of a number of things. And we also posit that because we were enforcing the law correctly, that they aren't exactly owed a refund, but we are willing to do some creative financing as far as putting it towards their renewal, their individual license renewal for the following years.
Mr. Chairman, how would that work?
So
About the same amount of money or what?
yes, it's the same amount of money. It would be a loss to us for those 27 people. And I think it actually only comes out to affecting 13 people because some were done by check and we have not cleared those checks. So we are able to just act like those never came in. So it would be about 13 people affected and they would get a $50 bonus essentially on their on the renewal of their license.
Okay, thanks.
Further questions? Thank you. Representative Duncan, you want to at least say hi?
So sorry, Mr. Chairman. I was just down the hall and all of a sudden I get this text. I didn't expect that we were going to be first. I was listed last. So I apologize for my tardiness and I really appreciate being here this morning. I just wanted to tag on the director. I did speak to the commissioners, and one of the things that the commissioners said to me was that basically what would happen is instead of doing any sort of a refund or anything like that, what they would probably do is just give them a credit for their next renewal license. So it's not a refund, but they just would be technically prepaying.
Questions for Representative Duncan? My apologies to you. I moved it up at someone else's request and I never told you. I thought you probably knew. So
It's from the Bible. It's Matthew 20:16. For the last shall be first.
Thank you. Any further questions for any? Thank you. Anyone else in the audience? Any testimony?
Do pass.
Anyone online? Okay, we got a do pass question, roll call.
On House Bill 76 engrossed, Senator Boner.
Aye.
Senator Case,
Aye.
Senator Nethercott, excused. Senator Scott. Chairman Driscoll.
All right,
That would be 4 ayes, 1 excused, do pass on Senate File 76.
very good. Next up, House Bill 55, liquor license airport exemption. See, we've got Representative Walters here. You've got the floor. Get you on to your next meeting. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and committee members. Before you is House Bill 55. And this is a liquor license exemption bill for airports. And starts over on page 2 of the engrossed copy on lines 4 through 7. This is discussing an airport liquor license within the municipality. And then if you go to the bottom of the page, that's a license out in the county. And so the things of note here are really on lines 4 and 5 of page 2. The commercial service airport is an important thing to note, and that there's 9 commercial service airports in the state of Wyoming. And so this makes sure that every rancher that has an airstrip couldn't have a liquor license automatically granted to them. And really this bill started just affecting the county side of it, because there are 3 licenses issued within a 5-mile veil of a municipality out in the county. And so what happens is many of our airports are, with the exception of really 1 of the other 8, they are open for very limited periods of the day because there's 1 or 2 flights a day at most. In some situations, you might get 3. And so when you take a liquor license out of the pool that are available, then you've taken away from an entrepreneur being able to offer those services out of, say, a bar all day. And that's sales tax revenue and everything else to that community. And so it's utilized for a purpose that may only be open an hour or 2 a day, maybe an hour or 2 every other day. And so we're offering this exemption so that we could not eliminate one of those licenses from the pool of availability. So it started out working for counties, but we had to incorporate municipalities because there is 1 commercial service airport in the state of Wyoming that is, you will not fully understand this, but years ago, they annexed the airport into the city prior to the law being passed that to annex it had to attach to the municipality. And so the Rock Spring Airport, while it's 15 miles out of town, is actually considered in the city of Rock Springs. And so then we had to bring in this component for the municipality piece as well. And so that's why you see it both an exemption for the municipality as well as the out in the county. And then the last component then is the subsection M, and that's allowing that airport to subcontract with somebody to provide those services. And there's a case in the 1990s that was brought this up. And so this addresses the a ruling of the Wyoming Supreme Court in that case. And with that, it's a real basic, simple, basically one-page bill. So I'd be happy to take any questions if there are any.
Question for Representative Walters. None. Senator Case. You almost got away.
Well, explain how this interfaces with Senator Anderson's bill with the resort license. I mean, is it just piling on?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for that question. They're very similar. I feel this works a little better being on the retail side instead of the resort side. They accomplish essentially the same thing. It's just a matter of going into the retail license statute or going into the resort statute. And the reason this one works a little better is it does allow the traveling public to purchase Wyoming spirits at an airport, say a Wyoming whiskey, and then travel with that and return to their home state with a Wyoming product. Whereas with the resort side, all they can buy is a drink to go, you might say, and finish it before they get on the airplane. So if they wanted to take a gift home to a family member or a friend through the Senator Anderson bill, that would not be possible. Whereas this would allow that opportunity by doing it in the retail component of the statute versus the resort side.
Follow up. So are we going to pass both bills? What's going to happen? I mean, it seems kind of not our best work to clutter the law up in two different ways with two different solutions. So can you guys kill the Anderson bill? Over there?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for that. That's exactly what is intended. Senator Anderson and I have visited about this extensively, felt it was an important enough topic. We didn't want it to miss the cutoff and get dropped in the process, but I don't think Senator Anderson's will make it too many more days in the process.
So I guess we just wasted our time with that bill.
Yeah. Other questions? I was just curious by what scriptures it took for you to kill his bill, but thank you. Any testimony from out there? I see someone in the back row. It's a little blurry, but I can see him. Welcome, Mr. Mosier.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Mike Mosier, Wyoming State Liquor Association. You're going to hear two bills today that we both saw ahead of time and we're both good with, and that would be House Bill 15 and House Bill 55. So that way you don't have to hear me twice, because I don't hear too many people ask to hear me twice. A couple clarifications. The good Chairman Minch asked about the Senate File 12 versus House Bill 55. We'd seen 55 ahead of time, and that was kind of the liquor division and my idea on how to fix it. And then 12 came across and we didn't expect that. Comparing the two, 55 is simpler. The counties have lots of liquor licenses for the most part. I think Laramie County has 50 laying around. And so it was a more simple solution, and being a simple guy, that's why you have two bills, because one was kind of a surprise. Now it's difficult because both bill sponsors are wonderful and they meant good things. But if we were to weigh in on one side, now I'm going to spare, and I know Madam Chairman, two chairmen have already heard all my bar stories about being at airports, so I won't put you through that unless you really want to hear more bar stories. But quickly, I used to have, as some of you remember, a pretty successful bar and restaurant at an airport. We did very well. We were a political bar. It was very busy, but I sold in 2000. In 2001, at 9/11, running a business at an airport got a lot different. It's not near as viable as it used to be. My nighttime bartender used to secure the terminal at the Cheyenne Airport. Now it's people with M4 carbines and stuff. And so it's not nearly as easy. And that's why I see this bill as being important. You want service at an airport, but on the other hand, it's not as profitable. I think there's only one bar and restaurant in Wyoming that runs successfully. And that's because not only do they have a fine operator who's also one of your colleagues, it's also a very busy airport. Most Wyoming airports aren't that busy. And so regarding the amendments, so essentially one puts it in resort language and kind of does a carve out. And this just makes an exemption for the 3 within 5 rule. Regarding the amendments, we're okay with those. We're fine with them. I understand the Rock Springs situation or any other similar situation and the idea of being able to sublease. To be honest, members of the committee, it's been happening for years. You just write your contract. So there's a buy sell. You give the operator a license, but there's a buy sell that says if you decide to move, you got to sell it back to me for $1. And so this makes it official, and I think it's easier. It's a good tool for entrepreneurs to be able to get a start with it and with a lower startup. So with that, Mr. Chairman, committee, we support both House Bill 15 and House Bill 55, narrowly targeted, well worked out, and I will take any questions.
Mr. Moser. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, Lawyer Kite now with the Wyoming Airport Operators Association or Airport Coalition, I'm sorry. And we do support House Bill 55. These both bills were surprises to us in some instance. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 operators knew about them, but the association did not. We do support House Bill 55 and would ask for your favorable consideration.
Any questions? Thank you. Anyone else? No one online, I assume. Okay. Vote testimony is closed. What's your pleasure? Pass. Debate. Question. I'll do an explanation. I'm going to go ahead and vote on it. I hold a liquor license, a couple of them. I don't see where it has any effect. If anything, it'd be negative. So I'm going to go ahead and vote on it. Roll call. Oh, there isn't. I didn't even see it. I'm sorry. No, I didn't even pick it up as I'd moved the bill up. So we do have an amendment and it's got me on it. Oh, it was that's a correction bill. It's basically a technical correction that came out of staff on it. I would move an amendment that what it does is strikes an and out on the on page 2, line 2. It strikes an and after the 9,500 is on the town and adds an and on the next Romanette. So that basically a technical correction. So I'd move committee of the whole amendment or standing committee amendment number 1. You move the amendment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, amendments passed. Back on the bill, roll call. Thank you, Senator Scott. I missed it.
On House Bill 55 engrossed, Senator Boner.
Aye.
Senator Case. Senator Nethercott.
Aye.
Senator Scott. And Chairman Driscoll on House Bill 55.
I'll go an aye on it. I don't see the conflict where, if anything, it would hurt me as a liquor license because it puts one out on the street. No, but it frees the liquor license up. It's a big deal. So you put another license in the pool. And so, but for me, it actually, if you're going to talk whether it helped or hurt you, it actually hurts you because it puts potential competition out. And
So on House Bill 55 engrossed, 4 ayes, 1 conflict, do pass amended.
I have a conflict because I'm a client. Not supposed to drink in the bar, but I used to drink at Moser's Bar.
And who didn't? Okay, House Bill 62, insurance amendments is a committee bill. And here we go. We've got the professionals here. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is, can you hear me? Okay. My name's Linda Johnson. I'm the Deputy Commissioner with the Insurance Department, and I have with me Mr. Brian Stevens, who's our Producer Licensing Supervisor. And you have in front of you House Bill 62, which is a bill we worked on with the committee during the interim. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Stevens to walk you through the bill and also the amendment that was done in the House regarding the adjuster language. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Stevens.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you. Starting on page 1, going over this, this is a lot of cleanup language. We had some conflicting language for the adjuster definition. We tried to fix that by changing a word. Industry had some issues. So Senator Scott actually suggested that we get together with industry and make sure we're all on the same page before this came before this body. We did so, and those definition changes are reflected on pages 2 and 3 for the adjuster language. We do have this in 2 places. We have it in the definition for the entire insurance code and the definition for the producer licensing code. Starting on line 15 on page 3, we also added appraiser and umpire definitions at the request of the industry. Moving on to page 4, starting on line 11, we are updating that definition of adjuster as well to make sure that all of the definitions are consistent. And this entire section, we are hoping to make effective upon signature to make sure we get rid of any conflicts. It won't really change much of anything. As far as just a side note on this, you'll notice the fiscal note on this bill has a $6 million deficit. Fixing these adjuster definitions turns that $6 million deficit into roughly a $750,000 surplus to our general fund. So we definitely think it's a good thing. Moving on to page 6. Currently in our code, we charge some non-residents $150 for their initial license, and some we charge $100. We feel like this was a drafting error when the bill or when the statutory language was initially proposed. On line 1 and 15 of page 6, you'll see we're updating surplus line brokers and adjusters. And on line 6 on page 7, we're adjusting insurance consultants for hire. We are simply making sure that all non-residents are paying $150 for their license and all residents are paying $100. Starting on line 20 on page 7, we are adding definition or fee schedules for continuing education. We're going to address this further on page 13. Starting on line 9 on page 8, we are making sure that all licensees have the same opportunity to have equity and reinstatements, waivers for military and long-term disability, and make sure that they all have the same address change reporting requirements. Page 9, we're adding definitions of continuing education provider and public adjuster. Public adjuster has not been previously defined, but it's used in statute and code. We thought it was necessary to have a definition in here, and we took this from NAIC model language. On page 10, line 2, we are adding a definition of licensee. We do this so that throughout the code, instead of naming individual license types, of which we have many, we can just do a blanket coverage for everybody that's licensed under this chapter. Page 7 on, or page 10, line 7, we're changing those individual licenses to licensee. Same with both changes on page 11. And on page 12, line 10, we are adding a requirement for all licensees to make sure that their email address changes are reported as part of their address changes, as this is the primary form of communication from our departments. Towards the bottom of page 12, we're updating that licensee definition, same at the top of page 13. And then we get into the meat of this section, starting on line 9. The goal here is to shift our continuing education fee from Wyoming residents to the continuing education providers. Currently, Wyoming resident producers are charged a $30 continuing education fee on their license renewals, and continuing education providers are not charged. We feel like this is unfair because they pay these providers for their continuing education, and then they have to pay us for their continuing education. We don't think that's something that should continue to happen. So what we've outlined here is definitions for continuing education providers, applications and approvals. Same for the course applications and approvals. They're both going to renew every 2 years on the last day of the month on which they were submitted. At the bottom of page 14, section 3, we are repealing display of license and return of license requirements. We no longer mail out copies of licenses. Frankly, they are a Word template that would not be difficult for someone to manufacture. So it's the only real way to tell if somebody is licensed is to check with our online database. Top of page 15, section 4 is repealing that $30 continuing education fee from our resident producers. And that is the bill, and I would stand for any questions.
Questions? Their case.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tell us what happened in the House. It looks like they had a standing committee amendment, which was very extensive, and then it looks like they destroyed most of that standing committee amendment with a committee of the whole amendment in the same sections. They passed them both. I'm trying to figure that out.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Case, thank you for that question. The standing committee amendments, when it was put in, it had that adjuster language taking effect at 2 different places. So one would take effect immediately and one would take effect 6 months later. As we're trying to get rid of that conflict, the committee of the whole amendments basically put them both in the same section, so they all take effect at the same time.
Okay. Thank you.
Further questions? Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
job. Have any testimony in the audience? No, nobody online, correct? Committee, what's your pleasure? Any discussion? Questions? Roll call.
On House Bill 62 engrossed, Senator Boner. Senator Case. Senator Nethercott. Senator Scott. Chairman Driscoll.
Aye.
On House Bill 62, 5 ayes do pass.
Thank you. I was going to ask you, I haven't figured it out, but we can. Sure. But since I was gonna catch you because either you're Tara or the ones that are technical enough to pull it
They always have cheat sheets.
out. Okay,
They make us look good.
very good. Next will be House Bill 15, political subdivision club liquor licenses. We have someone to present on it.
You and I are co-sponsors.
We're co-sponsors. You want to do this wonderful 1.5 page bill, Senator Nethercott?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A good little bill from the majority floor leader of the House. An act relating to alcoholic beverages, providing for contracting operations of a golf course without the transfer of an associated liquor license held by the political subdivision. So political subdivisions club liquor license, let's look at the new language associated with this bill, which is found on page 2. That's a whole full paragraph, so I'm just going to start reading it on page 1. A political subdivision of the state may hold no more than 2 club limited retail liquor licenses for golf courses owned, maintained, or operated by that political subdivision, in addition to any other license held by that political subdivision. So the new language that would be added is the following. For purposes of this subsection, a political subdivision may contract for or otherwise subcontract the operations of a golf course or any food and beverage service associated with the golf course to another individual or entity without transferring the club limited retail license held under this subsection. The act is effective immediately. In essence.
Questions?
That was good when the government competes with it.
We love it and we exempt them and let them go through all the rules, but that's the way it works. Any other testimony? Testifiing's closed. What's your pleasure? All right. We've had discussion. Roll call.
On House Bill 15 engrossed, Senator Boner. Senator Case,
Conflict.
Senator Nethercott, Senator Scott, Chairman Driscoll.
All conflict.
On House Bill
I
15,
am, I can co-sponsor and still be conflict. It's same as debating the bill and doing amendments. You can do it. Seems a little, okay. House Bill 60 engrossed. Fiscal training and enforcement of financial reporting laws. This is management audit. I'll bet there's no one here,
No,
right?
I'm here.
Oh,
Right. here.
awesome.
Yeah.
So
So
this is committee presentation day.
I guess so.
Senator
yeah.
Boner,
Yeah.
you're on.
Okay, so this is, we had a couple bills dealing with the Department of Audit, and the idea here is we want to ensure that our local entities are complying with fiscal reporting requirements. So we kind of have a carrot and stick approach here. The stick being that if they're not in compliance, we would withhold state funding to those entities. The carrot being that we're going to provide more training to comply with these fiscal procedures. So just getting into the bill, we have to bring in the state auditor if we're going to talk about, withholding funds, obviously. So we start off on Title 9, talk about examination of books, state institutions, and we have additional language here at the bottom of paragraph G. Just talk about all state agencies, the board shall verify any recipients of grants for loans are compliant with the reporting requirements, not including pass-through federal funds. So we exempted those. Once again, we need the auditor involved, not just the treasurer. And then on page 3 is kind of the meat of the stick part of the bill. Sorry, on line 12, upon receipt of notification by the state auditor pursuant to this paragraph, a state agency or board shall withhold state grant loan payments to every non-compliant county, city, or town. Department of Audit can talk about the importance of the timing, October 15th deadline. And then, of course, the auditor will be responsible for notifying state agencies of the entities that are not in compliance. So what happens on top page 4, if these payments are withheld, they'll go ahead and be withheld by the state agency or board in an account until the agency or board receives notification that the entity is in compliance. So there's time we're going to go and spend that money necessarily. They'll be held till the local entity is in compliance. The state auditor will retain a list of all the entities not in compliance. Once again, on October 5th, just before the October 15th deadline. Just going through the details of how that's going to work. And then getting on to page 5, page 17, that's the carrot. Talk about establishing training requirements for public officers. And once again, the Department of Audit will be the point of contact for that. So just a little bit more detail on page 6 on how that will go. It's not as if the Department of Audit has to make up their own training. They can use existing training materials and just come up with a list of courses on their website that would compel compliance. So that's some of the details. Like I said, the overall objective is to ensure that these local entities, which can have substantial amounts of funds, are complying with our laws without, well, hopefully providing some information and resources that are going to be beneficial without infringing too much upon their time. After all, these are mostly volunteer boards. So that's the bill. I could stand for questions, but we also have the Department of Audit here to go over any details I may have missed. So.
Questions? Your vote. Did you say we have someone from audit here?
Yeah, Mr. Chavez is here.
Perfect. So I can come up.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Justin Chavez, Director of the Department of Audit. I don't have any specific comments, just wanted to be available for questions. We spent quite a bit of time in front of Management Audit Committee over the past couple of years in relation to these issues. So just want to be available for questions.
I have one. Yes, go ahead. Senator Nethercott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does the Department of Audit support the bill or think it's necessary?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Nethercott, it addresses, I think, a couple of the causes of the issues we experience in trying to exercise our oversight, both in our requirement to produce the annual cost of government report, as well as findings in our audit reports.
Follow.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez. Is there anything that the Department of Audit finds concerning or you don't like about the bill that we can amend now?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Nethercott, nothing specifically that concerns us.
My question is additional workload and cost to you folks. Obviously, there's a few more reporting requirements. Just going to be able to be handled fairly easily where you said.
Mr. Chairman, yes, we have largely the structure already in place. Most of the entities already report a lot of information to us. So it's just a matter of collecting an additional bit of information as far as training goes. We already send out notification letters on a monthly basis after the reporting deadlines. So it would just be adding a couple entities to the CC list. As far as the training goes, the bill gives us the flexibility to do the training ourselves or approve other training. There are entities that already provide training. A lot of the specific special district associations provide training. So I think we largely have the structure in place, and so it won't be a lot of additional work to implement the requirements.
Thank you. And then holding the money if someone's not compliant. Do you have in statute where you can hold that money, or are we creating that somewhere here? Wasn't really clear if we were creating it, if there's something there.
Mr. Chairman, so there is some provisions currently in statute that withhold money. So for municipalities that are not in compliance, as of October 5, the statute directs the state treasurer to withhold funds to them. And then for special districts who are not compliant as of November 30, it directs the county treasurers to withhold funds. What I think is being changed here in the bill is that it would apply to all state funds. So for example, currently SLIB on an informal basis will contact us to see if an entity is in compliance before they distribute grant money. But has just been an informal kind of process. This would direct that to be required of all state entities that are giving out general fund money to withhold until compliance.
And one last, roughly how many do you end up holding up a year, or might you be holding up under this?
Mr. Chairman, on municipalities, it's probably a few a year. For special districts, it's probably more, although withholding of funds only applies to special districts that get state money. Not all special districts do. Some of them are purely user fee funded. So a few municipalities, probably can't give you a solid number on special districts without looking into it.
No, I was looking just a rough ballpark, and I assume most of them get them cleaned up fairly instantly once they don't get their money. There's a fairly quick.
Mr. Chairman, yes, our experience is that the money doesn't have to be withheld for very long before they come into compliance.
Thank you. Further questions, Ken? Seeing none, thank you. Anyone else like to testify? Come on up. Bill, you'll be next. Behind. Go here and then. Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Bob McLaurin with Wyoming. We support the bill. We've been working with the Department of Audit to understand what the training requirements would be and look forward to working with them to implement this bill. So we appreciate the intent and support it. Thank you.
Questions? Thank you. Mr. Winnie.
Mr. Chairman, Bill Winnie, Sublette County. Talk about drinking from a fire hose. 1985, I was sent to the Pentagon and was a program coordinator for 3 acquisition category 1 or greater than $1 billion programs. That meant I did a lot of financial stuff that I just had to learn from the ground up. I think the value of this bill is that the people that are being trained will learn how to recognize bum gouge when it's presented to them, either stuff that's just kind of not very well done or stuff that might actually be outright wrong or whatever. So subject to your questions, thank you.
Questions, committee? Thank you. Anyone else wish to testify? Do we have anybody online? Public testimony is closed. Committee, what's your pleasure? Roll call.
Can I ask
Oh.
one question?
Yeah, you can. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm just. Senator, I just noticed, this is in the statute for the Department of Audit. And the state auditor is actually, there's a small bit of direction here for the state auditor within the statute. And I can't find where there's any other interplay between the state auditor and the Department of Audit. And we create a duty here. Page 3, lines 9. And I'm perfectly okay with it. I've just, it doesn't go in the part of the statute where the state auditor's duties are described. So I'm just trying to figure that out.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the auditor was involved with our meetings consistently throughout the interim. And I believe that the element that it's important that we include that office because we're talking about distributing funds. So that's, I believe that's why that's necessary.
Because of the checkbook function, right?
Right, exactly, yeah.
I'm good.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Would Senator Case like an amendment just referencing to the state auditor's duties and the proper statutory section?
No.
Or just making a point about the fact that the state auditor is just a checkbook?
Whatever you think.
All right, thanks.
All right. Any further discussion? Question, roll call.
On House Bill 60 engrossed, Senator Boner, Senator Case,
Aye.
Senator Nethercott, Senator Scott, Chairman Driscoll.
Aye.
On House Bill 60 engrossed, 5 aye, do pass.
Bill 60's passed. Our next bill will be House Bill 56. Senator Boner, you're up again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this one does have a technical amendment identified by staff, just so we're aware. I don't forget. So the purpose of this bill is helping out the Department of Audit. They've had some pushback from entities which they routinely audit, saying that actually you don't have the statutory authority to audit us. So this makes it abundantly clear. And we can have Mr. Chavez give the details. I don't want to speak after, and especially given, I guess, kind of some more sensitive nature, but it just goes in and makes sure that all of the local entities that we assume the Department of Audit has the authority to audit does in fact make it crystal clear in the statute that they can audit special districts and recreation boards and municipalities with less than 4,000 people, things like that. So that's basically all the bill does. It's basically a bill of technical corrections to clarify that they do in fact have this authority. And I'll leave it to the Department of Audit to make sure that, and go into any details as to the challenges that they've encountered, but that's basically the bill. I can go through each and every detail, but like I said, it's mostly, they do stuff like, include special districts and other entities specified in 16-12-2. That's that laundry list of, special like airport board, it's that laundry list of those special local districts. So that's all that the bill does. The amendment identified by staff is it's basically a grammar correction. They're concerned, and after one of our more senior attorneys talking with the our chief legal attorney was, they're kind of going back and forth. This is the language they arrived on to clean up the language based off the amendment in the House. So that's the bill and that's the amendment.
Question for Senator Bowman. Senator Case.
So Senator Bonner, is this designed to capture all special districts or? Because they're not all in the same place in the statute. And some special districts kind of come at it in a different way. They're like a lot of irrigation and those kind of districts are under the auspice of the courts. So a lot of those are just kind of, they don't have a taxing role. But I'm just trying to understand which ones we're trying to catch. They're not all in the same place. Yeah, I'm looking at that, but I don't think that's all of them.
No, there's some.
Yeah.
Well, I could go through the laundry list of the Title 16 12-202 if you'd like. Yeah, we can ask the department also, but
That might be a good idea.
yeah.
He knows.
Mhm.
Well, no. Yeah, they're actually specified. It's just the ones in 16.
I think that's right.
Because there's a different explanation.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Case. So existing statute for our reporting requirements refers to special districts that get money from a municipality and special districts who are subject to oversight by the courts. And so I think the additional language then pulls in everybody else. So I think this bill would then make it clear that all special districts are subject to our reporting requirements.
Okay.
Further questions?
Any chance did Dave Groover look at this? Is he the attorney that?
No, it was Ian Shaw that looked at it.
Okay. Just might ask Dave to take a look at it. I'm only saying that because you know, I led the task force on special districts a couple of different times. And they're elusive animals out there in our statutes. And it's hard to capture all of them with, this seems really simple, a good way to do it, but I don't know that it actually does it. I'm hoping it does. I truly am. I'm not trying to be difficult. Might be worth talking to Dave Groover.
Well, it does say special districts outside of the ones in Title 16. So that in my mind would.
Let's hope. They're elusive creatures.
Very good. Further questions for either of us? Thank you. Anyone in the audience want to take a stab? Here we go. Go ahead, Bill. We'll catch you next.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. Glad to be back. Mr. Chairman, one of the legs of success of our Navy's nuclear submarine and aircraft carrier world is routine, regular audits of various pieces of paper. Some years ago, in front of, not me in front of the committee, I saw this committee with Chairman Scott dealing with I believe it was a cemetery district that had embezzlement go on for some years. And the idea of getting in and looking at books regularly, regardless of whether it's a high level $10,000 audit or just a review by maybe another district's, one of their members of another district that kind of comes in and looks at the book, creates the attitude of the records are going to be looked at. And so I think this is very important on that basis. Subject to your questions. Thank you.
Mr. Winnie.
Always amazed at the connections that Mr. Winnie makes.
Come on up. Welcome. Is this a green day? We're supposed to be wearing green. Scary. I don't think I have any on.
I don't know, Mr. Chairman, I didn't get the memo. Just picked what came out. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Jeremiah Riemann here on behalf of the Wyoming County Commissioners Association. We don't have a position on the bill, and I just wanted to provide some context to the House amendment and why it's important to us. When this bill came up in the Management Audit Committee, I recognize that based on the way that the language was structured, it added this set of words, other entities. That those terms were put right in front of Title 16, Chapter 4, 125C. And if you go into that, it references to municipalities of under 4,000 people. It also references to other entities, but for my purposes, it referenced to those municipalities. That became relevant because as you go to page 5 of the bill, it gets into the dissolution requirements that the county commissioners are responsible for if an entity is not compliant with its financial reporting. And so it added those terms, other entities. And so my review of the bill was that if a municipality of under 4,000 people was not compliant with its reporting, that it could be subject to dissolution by the county commissioners, which is not necessarily something my members were looking for. And so we've been working very closely with the Wyoming Association of Municipalities and others to just try and move that other entities in the front end of this legislation in order to make the mechanics of it work such that we weren't pointing at those municipalities. Certainly respect LSO to correct anything that we may have gotten wrong as we tried to go through that. But I just wanted to provide that context of what the House was doing and what we were interested in trying to see brought forward. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd stand for any questions.
Really appreciate the clarification. Committee questions? Thank you. Any further testimony?
Mr. Chairman, Bob McLaurin with WAM again. Jeremiah summarized it pretty well. We don't have a position on the bill, but we think the House amendments corrects that potential problem where county commissioners could dissolve a city of under 4,000. So we're good with the bill and the amendments.
Thank you. Question. Thank you. Committee. Anyone else? Anyone online? Public testimony is closed. Committee. Those moved. Any discussion?
Move the amendment.
Amendment's been moved. I think it's been explained already. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Vote. She moved the amendment. Yeah. Amendment is passed. We're back on the bill. Roll call. Did that last time. Kill wanted to talk, so.
On House Bill 56 engrossed, Senator Boner, Senator Case, Senator Nethercott, Senator Scott, and Chairman Driscoll. House Bill 56 engrossed, 5 ayes, do pass amended.